everyone, and thank you for joining Improving Code Quality with PMD webinar. And my name is Vladimir, I am Head of Product at the Welkin Suite, and today I will show you the parts regarding the how to use PMD and how to improve your code quality using the Welkin Suite IDE. And today we have a great guest in our webinar, Robert.
Hello, my name is Robert. I'm a German-based product architect. I work for Up2Go. Up2Go is a Salesforce ISV partner. We have different products out there, one about team collaboration and others for the automotive industry, financial planning, and other enterprise planning products. So as you see on the slide, I'm really interested in all the processes around coding and development, being agile, and I also named myself a clean code enthusiast. That's the topic we want to talk about today. A year ago, I created or ported a quality tool from Java to Apex and presented this on the last Dreamforce. And this was how I came into contact with the Welkin Suite and Vladimir, and yeah, how everything started. So before we dive into what PMD is, let me first talk about what good code is, because yeah, we are talking about code quality. When you read blogs and check Twitter, there's a lot about code quality, and what you often hear, good code is working code, because that's what we get paid for. We have to make our customers successful, so output is really what matters. There's a lot of technical requirements. Good code has high test coverage, uses the latest and greatest features and APIs. It behaves well in the restrictions of the governor limits, and yeah, you sometimes good code is even described in how it was created or designed, for example, in agile sprints. But for me, and I think this is very abstract. This is very far away from the actual code. So I think this is not sufficient. There's more to good code, and instead of just telling you what good code is, in my opinion, I brought you code that we use internally. It's code from our internal expense tracking software. So this code indeed makes us, the customer, happy in reimbursing expenses. It was planned in an agile fashion, it runs within the governor limits, and all of the list actually is true, but the question is, would you say this is good code? And when I showed exactly that piece of code during Dreamforce, I got a lot of answers, and the people were basically shouting at me, and I just collected a few of the things they mentioned. Long parameter lists with more than 4 parameters, suckle inside of loops, which might break with large data volumes, deeply nested control structures. The naming is all over the place. Sometimes I use braces, sometimes not. And even stuff like the use of comments. I personally try to restrict comments and have as few as possible, because I think if my code is really clear and clean, I don't need comments to explain it. So what we see, this is just a few lines of code. A lot can go wrong, and let's collect a few of the things that we want what good code or good code should have. And I brought you a few quotes by software development experts, not especially in the Salesforce field, but really people you even might know. Let me start with this. This person, Andrea Goulet, she makes money by refactoring the code of others. And she says, stop thinking about your software as a project. Think about it as a house, something long-term that you will live in, that you have to have fun in. And so good code for her is easy to maintain, because that's what you do most of the time. You do greenfield development the first day, and then you basically just go in and tweak it and extend it. The famous Martin Fowler, the inventor of patterns, and he wrote many great books about testing and patterns. He says, any fool can write code that a computer can understand, but good programmers write code that humans can understand. And that's what is important. Your code needs to be readable for yourself in a year, or for the fellow developer that comes and maintains your code later. So naming is important, certain patterns, stuff that people recognize. Henrik Knieberg, he might not be so known, but he's the Scrum coach at Spotify, a well-known Scrum book author. And he says, if you keep writing crappy code, you get slower and slower over time, and you're basically just wrestling with the code. And that's not what we think agile is. Agility means whenever a new idea comes up, you can really just build it into the system, and this really means your software needs to be extendable. There must be tests in place, it must be, you can refactor code, and this means extendability is key. To extend software, you must have tests in place. And as Ken Beck, I think everybody knows him, inventor of JUnit and book author of many great books, he says it's not a testing problem, it's a design problem manifesting as a testing problem. And this is really something you see in code. If code is hard to test, if it's not well structured, if you have long classes, intermingled procedures instead of small objects, testing code is really hard. So if your code is not good to test, something is wrong with your code. And this all is summed up in this word of clean code. There's a book by Bob Martin, great book, everybody needs to read it. It's not about a specific programming language, but it's about attributes of good code, about naming conventions, about how to reveal the intention of the developer. And clean code is really something we use all the time. When we go into code, when we do a code review and it's ugly, we don't say it's ugly, we just say it's not clean, it's not what we expect for the future. So at Up2Go, all of this is really important, because we don't do projects and then leave the project, we do products. So our code lives for years and needs to be extended, and so we have all the things in place that are required, like testing and code reviews and so pair programming. But everything is manual and time intensive. So we thought, why not can tools check at least some of those metrics that we said, like testability and readability. I totally agree with everybody who now says, how should a tool check these things? But many things can be checked. So if there's a subtle query in a loop, is something code should be able to check. And as we are from the Java background, we know that those tools exist. So for Java, there are tools like PMD and find bugs, and a lot of stuff was out there 1.5 years ago when we first thought about it, and we said, why doesn't any of those tools exist for Apex, especially as Apex is based on Java and quite close. So we just made a project. We had some very smart students who helped me, and we ported PMD from Java to Apex. We got a ton of help from Salesforce. They basically gave us their internal parser, Because what PMD does, maybe I should say a few words. PMD is a static code analyzer. This means it doesn't run the code, it doesn't compile the code, it just reads the source file and then understands the structure to find certain anti-patterns. So what we did, we made PMD understand Apex, and then we took many of the Java rules, around 30, and ported them to Apex. We also added some Apex-specific rules, like SOCL doesn't exist in the Java world, so we created our own rules. And then we made it available on GitHub, so this is not a tool we sell, or it's not a proprietary version of PMD. It's really part of PMD, so you can go in and contribute. We even wanted more. We wanted it to be part of our development process. So we wanted every GitHub pull request to be stopped if there is unclean code in there. So we checked out the tool landscape out there, find CodeClimate and Codacy companies which integrate with GitHub and monitor what's going on. So just think of the close future of Salesforce DX, where the GitHub repository is the source of truth. You can even check your stuff there. Yeah, everything is open source, and so during the last year, many jumped on the bandwagon and helped. Even Salesforce. The Salesforce security team provided rules, wrote a Visual Force implementation, and many tool vendors. So there's not only a PMD in the Force.com IDE, but also in IntelliJ and the Welkin Suite. And I totally love this, so I just said yes to such a webinar, and I will switch back now, and Vladimir will show you how PMD works in the Welkin Suite.
Okay, so I'm really happy that PMD is finally here for Salesforce, because like as Robert is from Java world, I personally am from a .NET world, and I always used to get lots of different static analysis tools like StyleCope, FXCope, or something else in the .NET world, and I got used to the stuff that these tools were checking lots of different issues that might appear in the code. And when we have started to use to develop for Salesforce, I was just wondering why my senior devs in the team should spend their time in the code reviews looking for stylic issues, looking for pretty stupid issues which should be found out by the automated tools. So when we have heard about the PMD for Apex from Robert, when we have started to look at it, we were really happy to implement its support in the Welkin Suite. So then, let's talk about what are the ways to use the PMD. In general, there's two main moments when you can use it. On the early stage, when the code is on your PC, when you are developing something, you can use the command line interface, you can use different unscripts, or you can use the support in other IDEs to execute the PMD right from there. On the right stages, you can use CI tools integration. For example, if you are working with Jenkins or Atlassian Bamboo or with any other CI tool, you can integrate PMD there as a part of your, let's say, deployment process. So in case if there is some smelly code, it won't get to the org. And the second option here is to use third-party services with Git integration, like Codacy, like CodeClimate, or any other tools which exist for Salesforce as well. However, with these approaches, there are some, I won't say issues, but some drawbacks at least. So for early stages, there is no easy way to configure rule sets, because first time when I found the PMD, I've seen the 33 rules in their Git repository, and I spent almost half a day trying to find out how I can configure a rule set without writing the direct XML files there. So it was a pretty big issue for me, and it was really easier to write the application which will execute, which will do this configuration for myself. And the second issue here is that it's too many actions needed to execute the code on your PC. You need to remember commands in the command line, or you need to write the unscripts. No, not ideal. For the late stages, for the CI tools integration, for third-party services, it's much better there because there's like commercial projects which are costing some money, but they well worth that money. That's why they provide you much better approaches and much better like UI. So what do we have with the integration of the PMD in the Welkin Suite? What options do we have here and why it's cool to use it? So instead of manual installation configuration of the PMD itself, we are bundling everything together with the IDE. So you just install the Welkin Suite and you will get the latest PMD, you will get some basic configurations, and you can just start using it without anything else needed from you. Instead of editing rules in XML, you have a pretty great UI which helps you to build proper rule sets and use it anywhere, or in the Welkin Suite, or in your CI, or supply it to third-party services. It's just up to you. In the same UI, you can see also descriptions and examples from the documentation for every rule, because when you're writing rule sets in the XML file, it's pretty hard to switch here and there between your XML editor and the website with documentation. You still don't need to use any commands, or you don't need to have any unscripts. You just need to do a couple of mouse clicks to execute the PMD scan. And also in the Welkin Suite, there are two different ways to execute PMD. I will show you them in just 2 minutes. And two more things here to cover, that in the regular PMD, you have results in external files. PMD, it's a great tool. It allows to export data to the CSV, to HTML, to XML, or like even in a plain text. However, it's still standalone file which is not connected to your development process directly. In the Welkin Suite, you get the results directly in the IDE, everything is integrated, and you can fix bugs much easier. The last point here is that previously it was only one kind of template of pre-configured rule sets. Now there are 2 templates because one were created by our team. However, let's switch back to the IDE and see how you can use the PMD while you're developing, how you can configure the rule sets, and how you can make your code cleaner, because Robert pretty good describes that it's important. So right now you can see on my screen, I've just spent yesterday 30 minutes to just try to grab the code from Robert's image and put it back to the IDE. And in just, I guess, 3 minutes, you'll get all of the issues that Robert highlighted. We will get them shown in the IDE. However, we'll start from the very beginning, and it's like absolute getting started. So in the Tools menu, we have PMD Apex Rule Set Configuration option, which allows us to create a rule set. Once we open this window, we can create a new empty rule set, or we can create it from a Welkin Suite template, for example. Once you create a new rule set, on the left side you see the different categories of rules from the PMD repository. Right now there are 33 rules. However, we believe that with your help, with our help, with the contributions from the Salesforce community, we'll have more rules in some near future. For example, as Robert has shown us, there are some rules that he don't like, and we will include them into our current rule set. So Robert doesn't like to see deeply nested if statements, so I'll open complexity category and mark this rule to be enabled in my rule set. On the right side, I see some basic description of this rule from the documentation, and also I see all of the parameters which I'm able to configure for the PMD scanner. For example, we have a problem depth value that shows us what level of nesting should be a threshold for triggering this issue. I'll change it from 3 to 2, and also I will change the priority of this issue from 3 to 4, because from my point of view, it's not like a game breaker. So I'll set it to 4. Also, Robert doesn't like the excessive parameters list, so we'll also enable this rule, and we'll set that even 3 parameters should be treated as excessive parameters list. In our default template, we have also selected about 15 other rules enabled by default. In case if you are not yet very familiar with PMD rules, you can leave this as is for now and start to make your code better. Once you get more familiar with the PMD rules and how to configure them, you can just jump in and enable other rules or disable rules which we have enabled by default. So at the moment when we are happy with our rule set configuration, we can save it. I'll call it PMD Webinar 3. press save, and that's it. The cool thing here is that this rule set configurator can be also used to edit any other rule set, for example, that you have in your CI tool or that is provided by Courtesy or Code Climate, for example. And we also have some plans to release this rule set configuration as a standalone free tool. So it will be much easier for everyone around to start using PMD, no matter what IDE you're using. So once you have your rule set configuration, you need to tie it up together like with your project. Again, there are two options to do this in the IDE. First option is to make it global setting. Once you open Tools Options, in the external tools, you'll find a PMD section where you can select a default rule set file and select a couple of other options. Once you do these settings at a global level, no matter with what project you are working, the same PMD settings will be applied everywhere. However, in my case, I want to do this on a project level. So in the Solution Explorer, I will right-click on the project, select Properties, and in the lower part of the screen, I will see the PMD settings section. Here I need to select my rule set file, that will be PMD Webinar 3. Then I can select error priority. So if you remember, in PMD there are 5 priorities. 1 is the highest, 5 is the lowest. This means that if it's set to 3, that means that rules with priority 1, 2, and 3 would be treated as errors, while rules with priorities 4 and 5 would be treated as warnings. And also we have a great option here to run PMD scan automatically before you're trying to deploy your changes to the organization. It's absolutely great option to have automated PMD scan on the early stages of the development. However, if you are working with a big project, if it's a legacy project, if you are aware that it's not yet ideal, this might be an issue for you, because at the moment when you change one symbol in a file, and in case that file have a lot of issues in terms of code styling, in terms of PMD rules, you will have to fix all of them before the IDE will allow you to deploy these changes to the Salesforce organization. So in case if you don't have time now to spend your time on increasing the code quality, on making it cleaner, we suggest you to turn off this automated build and just time to time periodically scan your code with the PMD. In my case, I'm happy to enable the automated PMD build. So I have this file. I'll make some change here in comments. Okay, I'll put 2 spaces. Once I press F5, the IDE will start the PMD check, and you can see immediate results right here. So you don't need to put your code to the Git repository, you don't need to open command line, just one click, 2 seconds, and you have the result immediately. So what do we see here? In the error list panel, we see 6 errors and 4 warnings. In the PMD report on the left side, we see the same information with a bit more details about each of the rules. And in the editor itself, we also see all of the issues highlighted pretty clear. So if I mouse over any of the lines here, I see that, okay, avoid long parameters list, method names should not start with capital letters. Here we see issues with braces. Here we have a SOQL query inside loop. Okay, deeply nested if statement. 3 items because for this if, for this else, and for this else. And here we also have issues with braces. So in just like 3 seconds, you are kind of saved from deploying such kind of smelly code to your organization. And as I've said, for example, if you have, I don't know, thousands lines of code, it will be a pretty big issue for you to deploy the existing legacy code without any changes to make it cleaner. In case if I want to make the changes or to scan my files with PMD manually, so what I will do here, I'll hide this panel, I'll hide this window. So in the Solution Explorer, I can right-click on any file, on any folder, or on the whole project itself, and select an option Scan with PMD. It will use the same project or global settings. It will take, okay, yeah, it will take at least 10 to 15 seconds to execute the full scan because there's a whole bunch of files here. However, in 10 seconds, you will get the same report with all of the issues in the PMD report panel. You can see that I have a huge number of issues with SOQL and DML in loops, and I have lots of smaller warnings which they're not mandatory for me to fix, but it still would be nice to fix them. For any of the issues in the PMD report panel, I have a rule, I have a description of the rule. I can click on the name of the file and I will get navigated directly to that line in the code which violates the rule. So in case if I see avoid so-called queries inside loops, I click on it and I'm right here exactly on the line which shows me a SOQL statement inside the loop. There are also categories breakdown in the PMD report panel. So by default, we are showing all categories. However, if you don't care for now about styling issues, you can switch to performance or, for example, to Apex unit. In case if you're looking for some specific issues in your code and would like to fix them first of all, for example, I don't like SOQL in for loops, but I hate DML statements in the for loops. So in the filter input, I'll enter DML and I will see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, about 15 violations of the rules in my code base. So I can just jump in here and start thinking how I can make this code better, how I can make this code cleaner and safer for myself in years to just maintain it and modify. Also, as you remember, we have saved the rule set as an regular XML file, so you can very easily add it to your Git repository and supply it to your CI tool or supply it to CodeClimate, Codacy, or any other external tool. So this way, we hope and we believe that it will be much easier for you to save your time on code reviews, to save your time on debugging some maybe stupid issues in the future, because you will see issues highlighted automatically. You will be able to fix them early and spend less your time and less money on making the code better. And I'll get back to the presentation and yeah, I guess that both me and Robert would agree in the same stuff, that start using PMD. You can download the PMD on their website. You can contribute to PMD with new rules, with descriptions, with bug wrappers in case of any. Just contact Robert and he'll be happy to guide you through the process of doing all of the stuff for the PMD. And I, from my side, I guess using one of the easiest ways to start making your code better is to use it in the Welkin Suite. So you can go to our website, start your free 30-day trial, and improve your performance, improve your code quality, just like yeah. And in case if Robert doesn't have anything to add here, I guess we can move on to the Q&A part. We forgot to highlight it in the beginning of the webinar, so we'll be here for another 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll be happy to answer any of the questions.
Let me just add a few words.
Sure.
So yeah, I really like how you integrated it, and I'm totally thrilled how many people got interested for clean code and yeah, better code in the last year. So many tool providers have integrated it like you do and others did. So I just want to repeat what you said on whenever you want to use PMD and struggle with it, or think about how we could extend this in the Salesforce world. Even if I don't do everything on my own, I know who in the Salesforce or HANA could do it. And yeah, just you see my email address, you see my Twitter handle. Just contact me. I can have a Skype meeting with everybody and explain him how easy it is to write PMD rules. It's really not hard. It's most of the time just I don't know, a few dozens of lines of Java code. And if you want to do more, there is so much stuff going on in PMD at the moment. It's a community that is much bigger than just Salesforce. PMD is really big in the Java world, and everything that comes out for PMD in Java can be used for Apex and Visualforce after a while. So yeah, let's just do some Q&A, but I would be happy to help everybody who wants to get cleaner code using PMD.
Okay, and I guess we have 3 questions. So the first one from Stefan: I see a fragment as in with less than 5 rows about Visualforce and PMD. So what is happening there with like Visualforce and PMD, Robert?
Sure, maybe a bit of background. During Dreamforce, Salesforce, the security team in Salesforce, the guys that support the security review, they were adding rules to PMD to do some checks that currently only can be done by check marks, the tool that is amazing because it's not only a static but a dynamic code analyzer, but some of the stuff that only checkmark could do could also be done by a static code analyzer. So a few great guys from Salesforce basically wrote PMD rules implementing that, and they were especially interested in all the security rules. And some of the more nifty security topics, they also need to know about Visualforce. So if you want to see if somebody's injecting some bad stuff into your code, you also need a view of Visualforce. So what they did, they basically wrote a Visualforce parser to make it possible to write Visualforce rules. So currently we just have a few Visualforce rules, but everybody can create more of them. So what I'm telling you is there's not much stuff for Visualforce, but it should be easy to add some. And it's as simple as Apex is. So when you look at the source code of some of the rules, it's basically checking the source code for certain snippets, like a specific Visualforce tag, and then checking the surroundings, the context, and if you see an anti-pattern, you just throw an exception, and PMD will just reveal it wonderfully to every tool that is wrapping it.
Okay.
Did I answer the question? Vladimir, I don't see any of the questions. I also don't see any of the members of the...
Okay, so yeah, I'll read all of them.
If somebody's in who I know, then I could just say, hey, just ask him.
So we have another question from Juan, and he's asking that you mentioned that PMD is free for open source. What is the license cost for commercial use? Because there was some misunderstanding because PMD it's free and open source.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's absolutely free no matter what you're using.
PMD is free as near for everybody. It's a GitHub project. It exists I think more than 10 years. You can grab the code, you can change it and sell it as a product. So PMD is really open source. And even many of the tools that integrate PMD have special things for open source. I'm not sure about the Welkin Suite, but I can say that I work with 2 companies that integrate PMD with GitHub, CodeClimate and Codesty. So they basically scan your GitHub commits, and they have offerings. If your GitHub repo is open source, you get the service for free all the time. So it's not only open source, it's also open source friendly in the tools that surround it.
Cool. Okay, we have another question. Thanks, Robert. So we have another question from Stefan. Will we see PMD checks for Lightning and JavaScript in Welkin? So I believe that we will see PMD for Visualforce support in Welkin, and once there will be some updates and news for PMD for Lightning and JavaScript, or we are going to think about like JSLint, if I remember properly, as another like tool for JavaScript analysis. Yeah. So like I'm very big fan of the clean code, and I'm very big fan of saving like everyone's time on doing all this stuff automatically. So at some point a bit later we'll add support for Visualforce, for Lightning, for JavaScript as well.
Maybe
and we have, yeah.
Sorry. I just want to add something. for JavaScript, there's so many other tools out there. You just said JSLint, and even Salesforce, they have this Lightning CLI, which is checking code while you program in the developer console. And I think in the JavaScript world, it's much easier to check code for such anti-patterns. You don't need a framework like PMD to make this work. So even I know that PMD exists for JavaScript. I think it's not the most optimal way. So PMD is really for some typed stuff like Java or Apex. So if I would be an IDE provider, I guess I would use JSLint or ESLint instead of PMD, because writing rules in those tools is easier than PMD.
Agree. Okay, we have another question from Fabienne. And what if a method is called inside a loop and that this method is doing DML or a query? Will PMD catch it or no?
Okay, come again.
So if there is a method call in the for loop, and inside that method there is a DML or a SQL query.
Oh yeah, I guess it's the question, is the rule smart enough to, yeah. In the beginning when I took it from Java, it was really a stupid rule, but the great engineers at Salesforce that made my rules available for the security review, they took care about stuff like that. So I think we are able to detect methods inside of loops that they're self-contain SOCL loops. So, but I still have to say, to do this really good, you have to understand the code, you have to have the compiled version of a class, and this is the realm of tools like checkmarks, because only checkmarks really, I think they compile the code, or they know which class is calling what. So we can do it, and PMD is currently improving into that direction to understand which class is calling what, but there are certain limitations. So sometimes you have SOCL in loops and it will not be detected because you just do some funky generic stuff. So it's basically you have to try it out and find the boundaries.
And from my side, we have some ideas to jump in as the Welkin Suite team and contribute to the PMD. So as we have already built our own web source parsers, we are able to do the in general grammar stuff and understand the whole logic of the Apex. We are thinking about jumping into the PMD and adding some more rules. I don't know yet if it will be able to introduce such kind of deep analysis rules into the PMD, if it will be easy or no, but still there are rules that I personally miss, that our team is missing, and will for sure contribute something, and I believe you'll add some more new rules there.
Yeah. So.
Okay, and then one more question from Andrew. So the Apex and Visual 4 parsers will hopefully be kept up to date by Salesforce as their product evolves?
Very, very good question.
Very tricky.
I just want to add some information to this, because the most of the work that was required for making PMD available for Apex was basically never done by us. We learned that we need a parser, and we said, hey, how can we write a parser for Apex? And then we just reverse engineered how the Force.com IDE works, and they had a parser because they have to understand source code to display it in Eclipse. And so we contacted them, and then we discussed a lot, and they said, yeah, it's just an internal version. It's not really free. It was not even open source, so we just could use it. So yes, we updated Salesforce knows that we are using it, so there's even discussion sometimes between me and Salesforce. They tell me, please don't use that annotation because it's undocumented. But what I want to say is that Salesforce seems to go in a direction where they provide a parser which is available for tooling providers. So I can remember last year before Dreamforce, around Salesforce DX, many tooling providers like the Welkin Suite, we all got invited to Salesforce. And there were many people like the guy from the Illuminated Cloud IDE, and everybody was asking, can we have a parser, a real parser which we can use? And with all the, how is it called? What's the name of the slide they put everywhere? Safe Harbor. They said, yes. Safe Harbor, we will provide something like that. So I guess your question is, will it stay up to date? And I would say yes. And in the beginning, we have to take care, I have to take care, and the PMD maintainers take care. But in the future, Salesforce will even support it with own version of the parser. So something in between yes and no. But you shouldn't care about this. Just use it, and if trouble comes your way, we will care about it.
Yep, agree. Okay, thanks, Robert. I guess that we don't have any more questions at the moment. So I guess that then we'll end up our webinar, and you see our contacts right here on your screens right now. So in case if you have any more questions about the PMD or the Welkin Suite or how do they work together, just like feel free to contact us, and like both me and Robert will be happy to answer.
Tweet that you liked the webinar, that everybody should use PMD.
Okay, so thank you very much, guys, for your time, and hope it was useful for you, and hope you start using PMD.
Bye.
See you. Bye.